Da-da-da.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Hunting, co-creator of the Model UN comic book, and you are on Splash Pages.
Is the one obvious thing.
What's wrong with him?
His girl just broke it off.
It's her father. He doesn't want her dating a zombie.
Why? What are they, demons?
She is predeceased.
An outsider?
Mm-hmm.
Man, you're asking for trouble.
She broke my heart.
You're a zombie. Technically, you don't even have a heart.
After all of the great cinema that we brought to the world, and we still get no respect.
I don't know why he doesn't like me. I'm responsible. A full-time job.
You work at a haunted house in October.
I'm trying to be healthy. She's a vegan, so...
Wait, you're giving up meat?
Oh, come on.
What are you gonna do? Attack a farmer's market to try to impress her?
Now, if he was a vampire, you'd have a much better chance with her death.
Yeah, those pretty bastards.
I didn't think this would be that hard.
Hard? Man, I'm a zombie and I'm black.
Oh, here we go.
I blame the educational system.
I blame the media.
I blame George Romero.
Oh. How could you be so disrespectful?
Coffee?
Zombies don't know much, but they do know good coffee. Deadly Grounds. It's coffee to die for, and zombie approved.
Who's George Romero?
Just have some coffee.
Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. You are watching Splash Pages. My name is Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here. We have an amazing show scheduled for you as always, and we'll kick it on over to Kari. How's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Me and Radhusker just chilling out, excited to talk about, with our guest about his Kickstarter project tonight. Yeah, I'm just here. He's getting drunk. I'm staying sober tonight. I'm being a good girl. So
You sure about that?
yeah, I just got coffee and Coke Zero going on. We're getting caffeinated.
All right, you two. All right. Hey, I'm here as Drew Mollo's biggest fan. Woo! Yay, Drew. We miss you, Drew. Hope you come back soon. And we're gonna have a great Tuesday night. I believe Kari, you're introducing, right?
Oh, Drew is, of course.
Drew's introducing?
Yeah. Well, Pillow Drew anyway. Oh, yeah. So, hey, everybody. It's Tuesday night. I see you all made it. Yeah, you're here. We're here. You didn't have anything else to do, so you're hanging out with us. But enough about me. Let me introduce our guest tonight. We have a Canadian freelancer. freelancing writer, who over the last decade has been published in the New York Daily News, Motor Trend, Super Street, Toronto Star, and the National Post, as well as numerous other magazines and online publications. He also has a self-published literary novel, the graphic novel Code 45, and the comic book Dead Air. We're bringing him on today to talk about his latest Kickstarter, Model UN, which is going to be an all-digital project. Everybody, please welcome the amazing Benjamin Hunting.
I don't know if I can live up to that introduction, but thank you for having me on.
Hey, welcome, Benjamin. I had my apologies. I had no idea she was going to do that, but you did,
nobody did.
That wasn't foreshadowing enough beforehand when I was like, oh, and then we.
Oh yeah.
No,
Well, now
I should have thought of that, but no.
now I know what
I'm
happened.
working on my Drew impression. Oh, I do a great impression of Leo. I turn him into all sorts. I lock him in a box,
yes.
put him in a back to tank, turn him into a cat. We're
So, Ben.
kind of weirdos here.
Yes, we are kind
So
of
Ben.
weird. So, Ben, where are you coming to us from this lovely evening?
Southern Quebec.
Southern Quebec.
Out in the woods, yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm about 5 miles from the Vermont border.
Oh, that's not too far. You're almost one of us.
I can see Jay Peak from here, so it's within visual distance.
And
scary enough, we may actually be related because a lot of my family is from up there, and we're both gingers. So you never know. Maybe
that's true. Plus, my dad's adopted, so like that's a wild card. I could be related to everyone in this conversation.
There we go.
all right.
I'm trapped with all the gingers. Oh shit. That's a goth girl to do.
Don't worry, I'll be fully gray soon or bald, so I won't be ginger anymore.
Oh.
I've heard that red-haired folks don't go fully gray. They go like white with an interim step called buff, which is what I think I'm in now.
I'll have to tell my wife I'm buff.
Yeah. It's the perfect time.
So, how you grew up in Quebec, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And did you start your comic book love young, or was that something later?
It's kind of weird. The answer is both, but in like really different ways. Because when I was a kid, I read a lot of in Canada it's Saturday morning comics, but I know in the US the Sunday morning paper has the color comics.
Yeah.
So that's what I was super into.
We're
I would
always
read like
a day late.
I read like Gary Larson and Berkeley Breathed and GB Trudeau, Charles Schultz, all that stuff. I loved that. I read a ton of it, and I had a babysitter when I was younger who brought over Archie and Veronica, and then I became obsessed with that. But I think really for me, I just read everything all the time, and so if you put comics in front of me, I was going to read them and I was going to be into them. But something happened in my teenage years where I never made the transition to kind of moving past that type of comic. Like I didn't seek out superhero stuff. I didn't really know much about the comics world outside of what I had been exposed to. And I grew up in a really small town with no comic book store. And I feel like when that happens, you can easily not know that there's a much larger world of comics out there. And it wasn't until my early 30s where I moved to a part of Montreal where a comic book store had just opened a couple of blocks away called Crossover Comics that I discovered independent comics. I was like 30, 31, 32 years old. And I walked in the shop and made friends with the owners and found this entire universe of stories that I did not know existed. And it was pretty awesome. So that's really what kicked off my voraciousness for comics 2.0, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, let's go back in time because I want to get into your school because that comes up in your comics world. Can I ask, how did we get expelled, shall I say?
I had a smart mouth when I was a kid. I mean, I
for
still do.
Smart mouth?
I'm sorry?
For talking smack.
Yeah,
huh?
I mean, like extreme levels of it, I guess. When you're 13 or 14, no one wants to hear that, especially adults. So, yeah, that ended my public school career fairly quickly. And the only other option, because up here, 90% of people speak French as a first language. So English language education especially in rural areas, is pretty limited. And the only option my parents had was to like put me on a scholarship and send me to this small private school in our town that had maybe 200 kids. And as you might imagine, a smart mouth plays even worse there in that situation.
Yeah.
So I was lucky to graduate. Honestly, it was 3 rough years, and I decided with this book there were a couple things that made me want to go back and look at that. One is it lets me take something good out of a bad experience and try to make something positive out of it. But also, there's a lot of comedy and hilarity that comes out of that kind of situation because it was one of those private schools that was built after like the British boarding model. And there are all these weird traditions and strange requirements of kids, and they had prefects and all that fun stuff. And they called grades forms instead of grades. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I can mine that situation for comedy. And then when I introduced the aliens in the book who have their own hierarchies and weird, rigid ways of doing things, you take those two things and you mash them together, and the sparks that fly can be pretty funny. So it was weird because I had to be really gentle with myself, looking back on who I was as a teenager and having those experiences and like going back and revisiting that, which is not something I do often. And just realizing, you know, I was a super different person at that point, and that everyone changes and grows, hopefully grows and evolves. So that was kind of like a weird aspect of it emotionally when I was working on this book.
So the main premise of the book is a model UN club that they're invaded by aliens and thought to be the actual UN. Am I getting that all correct?
So it's the crux of the story is aliens show up on Earth, and the leader of the aliens thinks that they've done all the research they need to do to make first contact, but really that alien is a doofus and is very pig-headed and won't admit that they're wrong. And when they make contact with this tiny school with a whole bunch of kids who are basically play pretending the United Nations, and who tell the aliens they're play pretending the United Nations, the leader won't hear it. Like that leader is like, no, you know what? I made my decision. This is what's happening. So you're just gonna have to figure it out. So these kids they're forced into a super weird situation that they're obviously not prepared for, and they have to essentially the fate of the Earth is in their hands.
That's fantastic.
And
The premise
terrifying.
alone, terrifying and fantastic. I could see like a cartoon being made of this. Like, would be great. Um, Now you have a female protagonist. Do actually in Code 45? You also seem to have a female protagonist. Do you write from that perspective a lot?
Yeah, pretty much every book I've written focuses on female protagonists. The short answer to why is I think in 45 years, I've read enough stories about men, um, seeing as it's like 80% of everything I encounter in media. So I
Mm-hmm.
really have no interest in retreading that ground. I mean, what's the point of doing that? I think it's far more interesting to tell different stories than what I see everywhere else. So that's a big factor in how I decide who I'm going to write for in the book.
Now, when's this coming out? You do have the Kickstarter going on right now,
Yeah.
which everybody that's watching, if you check your notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to this, I do have a link in the bio there.
Thank you.
But yeah, what's the time frame for this?
The book's done. Book's ready to go.
Oh,
It's,
sweet.
this is the first half. It's 54 pages, I think. And the art, the lettering, everything is ready. It's bound, digitally bound, and ready to be sent out once the campaign is done.
Nice.
What kind of rewards are going on here, Leo?
Well,
Can
actually,
you see?
let's see. Oh, you got the digital PDF. Ben, what rewards do you recommend for people?
I think the most interesting reward is that second one that you're kind of hovering over there, where you get the script and the layout. I worked with an artist and my co-creator, I.E. Santiana Hernandez, on this book, and he's really into providing alternate takes on pages. He would put jokes in, move panels around, just provide ideas. And this is the first time where I was working primarily long distance with a collaborator, and so he would send me different versions of a page, and I'd end up in a situation where I'd have like 2 good pages, but you can only put 1 page in the book. So for this this rewards tier. Not only do you get the script and the layout of the book, but you get alternate pages with explanations as to why they didn't get in there, like why we went in one direction versus another for the story. And yeah, I think it's fun for if you're someone who's maybe wanted to make a comic book of your own and aren't sure what goes on behind the scenes, or if you just want to peek into someone else's creative process. That was a fun reward to put together.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's like DVD extras, the alternate endings and stuff. I love that shit.
Yeah, I collect scripts as often as I can to get all the and it's crazy how different people write and how
Yeah,
different the same person writes for different artists that they work with, you know.
that's a really
I
good point because like every collaboration is so unique, right? And you start to learn like how the artist is going to interpret what you put on the page, and you start to write for their strengths almost to like make sure that communication is clear. I hadn't even considered that, but that's really true. It's with this
yeah.
story. Sorry, go on.
Oh, no, I was just saying, yeah, there some of the different people that I've read their stuff with, like this person that's a longtime collaborator of theirs versus this one who not so much. They gotta
Mm.
get, there's all like you were saying, inside jokes and little crazy things written in the scripts in one thing, and then there's this really professional script for somebody that they're kind of new with, and it's just like, dude, I know how you write. I've read this. You, and, sorry,
With
but
this
please.
no, but wait, it's so true. Like the previous two comic books I've worked on, the my co-creator and an artist is someone I've known for more than 20 years and is roughly my contemporary age wise. So a lot of our experiences were similar and we had similar reference points. With Santiago Hernandez, he's younger than I am and he lives on a different continent. He's based in Argentina. And so when we're talking about like 90s Canadian private school, like what hairstyles were like, what people were wearing, what kind of accessories were around, like that was conversations that I had to have with him that I would not have had to have in the past. And it really, I like that because it made me interrogate my assumptions more than I would if I was working with someone I was more familiar with.
Okay.
That's
And
really interesting.
so
Oh, go ahead, Carrie.
I'm just trying to figure out, you were in school about the same time I think I was. I graduated in 93, so I'm not
97 for
sure.
me, so like pretty similar.
Okay,
96.
you're my sister's age. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an interesting time to be growing up.
For sure.
And to be in school with everything going on. I mean, I guess it's always interesting, but I think we had a great time of it as far as like the music and everything going on. So the pop culture references and
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
And that is that something I saw that it's one of those like if you like this and you went through this, you're gonna enjoy it. So are there a lot of references to, well, not a lot, but
So
reference to the pop culture of the time?
the previous book I was working on, Dead Air, was based on college radio in the 90s. So like that was
Yeah.
just soaked in pop culture. And for this one, I pulled not so much from music, but from it's weird. It's like a mix of like 90s teen movies, like stuff that does not hold up very well when you go back and watch it from our modern perspective. But movies like Bring It On or Can't Hardly Wait, where you had these disparate social groups that are forced into a situation for like one day or like the last party of the year, or they're all in a cheer squad even though they're all really different people, and then you apply pressure to that situation, it shakes things up and you get to see like who the characters really are. And I took that inspiration from Model UN, where you have people who are in this club and like some people are real keeners and they're super interested and they love the hierarchy and the rules and everything, and then there's people who are just floating through their high school experience who need the credit. And there's one of my characters is there, she's a bully and she's a soccer star, but she broke her arm so she can't do it this year, and so this is what she's doing. And they're different people and they don't necessarily like each other, they don't necessarily dislike each other, but when the aliens show up, like it very quickly peels away the facades that we're all wearing at that age, because I honestly think when you're a teenager, you don't really know who you are. It's still something that's very much in development. So when pressure arrives, it can dissolve any of the pretense that you have about how you're living your life and how you're interacting with others. And it's a fun way to make characters grow. It can bounce them off each other.
Yeah.
What's
You
it?
have to turn that little screw,
Yeah.
add the little steam pressure going on.
Or the big alien screw, the big terrifying
The
screw.
big that yeah.
Speaking of that, with the bully, I love the layout and the press material that you sent. Looks like you did this for several characters. The bio breakdown of the character, I thought that was awesome.
Thank you. That's another thing that's kind of 90s because I was the story. I'm trying to tell it in like 120 pages max. So like when with that kind of limit on myself, I realized that I couldn't go super in depth with like flashbacks and character moments and whatnot. Everything had to kind of be in the story when I was developing the characters. But these little panels let me cheat on that by creating this like yearbook page almost. But it's also combined with like the fighter selection screen from like a 90s video game like
Exactly.
Tekken or Street Fighter or something. Exactly. That's how I picture them in my mind. So you get these fun facts about them. You get to inject a little bit of comedy, and then I had the idea to like take the. I'm pointing at the screen, which is not great for even a visual medium like this, but the little accessories that each character has. It's just like a way of highlighting what they're wearing to give them more development for their personality, but also it's when you have a black and white book like this and everyone's wearing school uniforms, you got to make sure everyone looks different enough so that like you can look at the page and know which character's which, and that was super tricky. So I especially when I chose two brunettes as the lead characters, like best friends in a black and white book, I kind of regret that decision at this point. But it's Santiago Hernandez is really good with faces, so I turned out to be worried for nothing.
Well, yeah, I was going to say your artist really did a great job
He knocked it
making
out of the
each
park.
character distinct. Yeah.
And what's cool too is when I was looking for through portfolios to try and figure out who would be a good potential collaborator, he's also got a really strong background in like sci-fi interiors, like corridors and ships and stuff, the hard angles and like the technology. And it's pretty rare in my experience to encounter someone who can do both, like the humanistic faces with the expressions, and I can tell what they're thinking just by looking at their expressions, as well as technology. So I really lucked out in meeting him.
What made you use Kickstarter for the?
So I've done, this is my fifth or sixth Kickstarter campaign. My first one was Code 45 back in 2020. We did 5 issues, and then we were picked up.
Fantastic book.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. We were picked up by Scout Comics, and we did the indie publishing thing with them, and that was a really negative experience. And I can't recommend anyone out there who's listening go with that publisher. I think their problems are pretty well documented at this point. I don't want to get you guys in legal trouble by bashing them, but
We don't know nothing.
yeah, exactly. Excellent. So after that, it really made me realize not only is crowdfunding a more financially viable tool when it comes to recouping the cost to produce a book. If you're a writer like me who doesn't necessarily have developed artistic skills, you're hiring everyone who's working with you. And that can be expensive, art, design, all of that stuff. So being able to pay for that through crowdfunding is great, but also more than that, having a direct connection with the people who are reading your book is really fantastic. And like, it's so weird to have a book in stores in the direct market and not know if anyone's reading it, or knowing that people are reading it but not knowing what they think about it because you don't have a way to reach out to those people. But when you crowdfund, the feedback is immediate. I mean, people are either supporting the next issue or they're not. You can tell who's coming back, And then there's the fact that the people will tell you straight up. They'll message you. They'll send you an email, and it's really great to have that kind of communication. I think it's an undersung aspect of crowdfunding.
Yeah, definitely the community aspect. Sorry, go for it, Kari.
Oh no, I was just we've been talking to a lot of people recently who are doing a lot of the crowdfunding kind of things, and it's become its own market pretty much.
For sure.
Because of these things that you're saying, because you're in direct contact with everyone. And I mean, you can eventually, with some people, they're going to eventually put it up on shelves and stuff, but you're getting in the early stuff here to kind of promote it and push it really hard before then. So, yeah. So if you're doing this digitally because of tariffs and things, is there any thought in the future of, if things calm down a little bit or whatever, to go into print, or do you just think you're going to keep this one digital?
I would love to. I'd do print today if I could. This is my first digital campaign, and it was super daunting to try and do something like this because there are a bunch of reasons, but we've had really great success on Kickstarter in the past, and doing digital only was like starting from scratch because the rewards are completely different. Like I can't offer art prints, I can't offer original art. I can't. We were in the past we printed up paper toys. We've done 3D printed toys, buttons, pins, all sorts of like ephemera, world building ephemera, I guess is the best way to put it. And that's a lot of fun to do, but you can't really do that the same way digitally. It's much more difficult. I'm working on some ideas for the next campaign to try and build out on that. But I'm not sure if people who buy digital comics are primarily on Kickstarter, because there are other outlets for that as well. And that's something that's been a learning experience. And then all of that on top of the fact that this is a black and white book that's kind of in a manga style, which is totally different from anything I've ever done before. So even though I have in the past, I've had a really great supportive audience who've been loyal and come back to back the books, they're not all on board with this one. And I get it. Like when you take a very different swing, not everyone's going to be interested in that particular style or that type of storytelling. So this has been, I mean, it's a huge dice roll. But like, you don't learn if you don't try. And I really wanted to do something different and put this book out there. And I really felt like a manga-esque narrative structure was the best way to do it. And it's been fun to do. And I've learned a lot in the process.
Awesome.
What would you say was probably the most difficult part of creating this book?
The most difficult part, definitely finding Santiago Hernandez, definitely finding the right artist for the job. It was not only difficult, but it was scary because it meant leaving behind not leaving behind, but like the artist that Joe Ng, who's worked with me on my previous two books, he's currently for medical reasons not working, and so that's a big push to have me move in a different direction, and like leaving that very comfortable relationship for a total unknown. In the first few weeks, it was scary because not only do you not necessarily know the person's art skills if they're gonna match with what you perceive as the best look for the story, but you also want someone who's going to be reliable, someone who's going to be there for part 2, someone who's going to be there for page 10. You just don't know this person. You're putting a lot of faith in them, and like it's been great, but that was very daunting. Like that part it felt difficult, and it felt like you just kind of, you're standing on the edge of a cliff and you're holding the script in your hands, and then you take the step off, and it's like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. You just have to hope that like that invisible bridge is there and you're not just going to plummet to your death.
How did you find him? Was it through a Facebook group or something?
Yeah, it was a Facebook group. I had gone on BlueSky and looked through a lot of Portfolio Day stuff. And then I found a few Facebook groups that were intended to connect artists with writers. The one that ended up working the most for me was a manga specific one. Looking for an artist online is like, you say, hey, I have an idea for a book, or you say, I have a job, I would like to hire somebody, and then you get 600,000 bot messages.
Oh, I'm sure.
From like studios located all around the world that say exactly the same thing to you, and it's really hard to figure out who's legit, who's not, whether you're talking to an actual person or like 5 people. It's what I assume online dating is like, if you're very rich. So like that was tough.
Yeah, I can imagine, because I came from the corporate world, and there's tools for listening to like social media areas. If somebody says this, it comes up on your feed, and you got a team behind it to work off of that one comment.
Spooky. It's spooky to hear that.
yeah. It's kind of crazy what the corporate world has access to. But speaking of doing this online, and I'm sorry if Jar Jar, if I
oh no, go ahead, man.
With it being a manga style, I'm very geeky myself, and I buy all my comics physically, and then I read them digitally so that I don't mess up the pages and stuff. So I was looking for a good online, or not online, but a good digital organizer for my comics. And the best one I found was manga specific, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
it's
can you tell me what you're about to tell me what it is? I'm about to write it down.
yeah, it's called Kavita.
How do I spell that?
Kavita.
Okay.
Yeah, I can actually show you.
Because I have like endless
Nerd
folders
alert.
of poorly organized comics that I need to deal with.
Yeah, so Kavita, you can install on Docker if you understand that. Okay, do you have a network attached storage?
No, I don't. I read my comics primarily on a hacked Kindle Fire that I've rooted. So I just, yeah, just
Um,
easier.
I can probably message. Yeah, but definitely look up Kavita.
Okay.
I have it installed on my. It's like a network server, but you should
Okay.
be able to install on like your home computer and whatnot. Um, but yeah, it organizes all your folders. But the cool thing is, use that just for organization. Then you can use a comic reader like Panels to
Okay.
access your library.
And it can be done like it sets up a server almost.
Yeah, it is a server specifically for comic libraries.
So it's almost like a Plex server, but for comics.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I got it.
Yep.
Booster.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to say Plex.
Yeah.
I don't have a Plex server, so I don't know the politics behind what just happened. But
No worries. Actually, Jellyfish has taken over from Plex anyway. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm still using Plex myself. So it's yeah. I'm sorry. That's your tech minute right there.
We are looking for sponsors, Kavita. So,
Yeah.
just saying, we'll promote you in the shows.
But Benjamin, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm
Okay, cool. I
still learning
appreciate that.
myself, but yeah.
Thank you. It definitely sounds like way better than what I'm doing, which is just being overwhelmed and not finding the comics I want to read.
Yeah, well, also I was having a problem with, trying to load everything onto my iPad, and you run out of space,
Yeah.
This year everything just sits on that one server, and then you access it from your Kindle or whatever. And yeah, you just pull down the books that you want to read at that time.
That's great.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, cool
The
stuff.
more you know.
Yeah, and then you don't damage your books. So, like, I just bag them, back them, keep them, well.
There you go.
Oh.
The book prison.
The book prison.
Those got to be some heavy duty shelves. Are those long boxes?
Short boxes.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're short box. Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Damn.
You have the long boxes, Jar Jar. You have Jar Jar
I
has
do, but not. Oh, not anymore. I sold a good chunk of the collection. Now I'm down to just my main stuff, Batman and
What?
stuff like that.
I've
What?
seen this man's basement. It's terrifying. If you got rid of all that, that's crazy.
I did.
Like, we had picture. Holy
They
sh-
gave me a lot of
Okay.
money. I couldn't
I hope
resist.
so.
I was like, money.
And on the plus side, now perhaps people won't describe your basement as terrifying, which is
That's
Well,
nice too.
Okay.
I
My-
wish I had
my-
an old picture available.
I have
I had-
this thing going on with Kickstarter boxes, and I buy so many things. I could probably wallpaper this place with the boxes, but I'm saving them so that when I get kicked out of my apartment for not paying rent, I can build a little hut out of
little
all of the
mailers?
boxes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the Gemini.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Geminis, gotta love the Geminis. And some of the bigger boxes I have, but you can't sit on my sofa. It's like taller than the sofa back is, with boxes stacked on it, and my closet and everything in my bedroom. There's
She's
just
hoarding.
boxes everywhere. Because I don't want to
like,
get
really-
rid of them.
No, I struggle with the same thing because I'm like, I could just keep this and reuse this for another campaign, but like then I'm in the same situation you are. It's like, well, where do I keep them until that happens, And then I fight back and forth about it, and eventually I recycle them. But like it's like a weeks long process every time one of them comes into the house.
Oh, I have like 40 on my sofa right now. I'm just going, geez. Yeah, I have boxes of boxes.
I believe it.
And but you're gonna mail something at some point in time. I need to send Drew his birthday present, so that
There you go.
requires a couple Gemini mailers, and
And it's
I just have
9.5 by 11 inches. This is perfect. As
Yes,
long
it
as the
is.
present is within those specifications.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
exactly.
he's going to get comic books from me anyway.
There you go.
So, yeah.
So, Model UN, how much time do we have left on that?
As of right now, it's 15 days. So about 2 weeks to get in on that. It's I like I'm hopeful to get to 100 backers, which is really weird to say considering how successful past projects have been. But again, this is something totally different, totally new, and a totally unusual format. So what I'm really hoping with this Kickstarter campaign is to be able to lay a foundation to build the second campaign on. And then, as we were talking about, if the tariff situation makes it possible to once again send stuff across the border from Canada, that foundation theoretically leads to a physical version of the book, which would be nice.
Nice. Well, I know I love everything I'm seeing so far, and Kari, you brought this to us as well, so it's we'll definitely be pushing it. And Kari is our resident Kickstarter, maniac. So
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you to say that, and I'm just happy to have this idea out in the world, and I can't wait for people to read it and tell me what they think, and hopefully come back for more.
cool.
Oh, it looks like so much fun.
Now
Yeah.
it's a two-part, you said?
Yeah, it's a two-parter. So I'm hoping to have the plan is to have the second one. I've started the writing now and looking to have that ready for the spring, kind of at the latest. Spring
The
of
motion on
2026.
that is awesome right there.
He had a bunch of cool ideas for the ship in terms of we're just trying to figure out the right size and kind of ended up with I think it's a bit of a take on Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but like more angular and not quite as fragile looking. I think was the end result there. But just excited to see. The other thing too about this page, especially, is Santiago Hernandez is really good at putting motion and energy into pages. Thank you, Remington. That's very kind. I will make sure he knows. He's really good at putting energy into pages where I would have a scene that was maybe a little bit static. And a great example was I had a couple of scenes on the inside covers of the book, just like placed for credits or kind of world building stuff. One of them was I was like, oh, what if we had a bunch of newspaper headlines and we're talking about the aliens and like kind of show how the impact they're having in the world. And he takes that, and I thought it would just be like, a collage of newspapers on a desk or something. He creates a street scene with someone who's like a newspaper hawker in front of a kiosk selling newspapers with all of the headlines. So he would just take these ideas and expand on them and find a way to make them more active than passive. And this is a cool example of like how he's able to just put energy on the page that maybe wasn't necessarily explicit in the script. And that's the cool thing about comics when you collaborate with someone is you get to mash two brains together and put them on the page, and theoretically you get like the sum of those two brains, and they fill in the gaps where one side might not have necessarily considered what the other side was thinking of doing. And that's something I love so much about making comics.
No, you
Yeah.
may have found yourself a soulmate with the your artist. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name, but
I.e. Santiana Hernandez.
like, yeah, if he's just coming up with this stuff like that's fantastic. Like, you don't even have to be like, hey, I need more action, need more of this, and he's coming up with it on his own. And he's doing alternative pages.
He's excited about it. That's what was cool. It was
That's
like
great.
having that energy returned when you're working on a project is a really great feeling.
Especially like when it's like your idea, it's your baby.
Well, it's the one of the coolest things in the world is like having something that exists only in your brain and then seeing an artist bring it into the world in a tangible way. Like that's just wild. To like have that show up in your inbox is one of the most amazing feelings.
That's cool. Now,
Yeah, we need to write comics.
how long do you think it'll be before the second book is done?
I think probably in the spring of next year. That's the goal.
Oh, that's
I
not
think
bad.
that's it's I put the page limit on myself because sometimes when you put limits on yourself, you can access creativity. It forces you to think in a different way versus when you have like kind of an open-ended concept. So I wanted to be able to tell a complete story in a specific arc, and doing it in two halves lets me not stress out about how the story is going. Um, it's pretty much planned out front to start. But the weird thing is like when I create a book, or co-create a book, I should say, I often have the last page in my head already as to where everything is going, and I can see what it looks like. And it's the same thing with this. So it's a question of like, how do you get the characters to that point in the most interesting way for the reader? And that's what I'm working on now.
And you
I
do a
cut
lot of
you off,
writing.
Gary,
Oh,
again.
sorry. No. You a lot of your writing, I noticed, you do automotive writing and articles and things like
Yeah,
that.
I'm a full-time freelance writer. I've been doing that for about 17 years. Automotive, technology, some culture stuff. Yeah.
So writing like that, it teaches you to be very succinct. You aren't,
It
so you
can for
don't,
sure.
I think, because I've noticed we've talked to some people, I can't remember who was telling us recently, but it was like, okay, think of everything that you want to have done. And instead of that being 6 pages, make that 2 panels,
Yeah.
and that's how it starts. So you know how to take everything if you need to and just wrap it into a short little bit,
The
like
hardest thing in
as you're doing with the introductions.
for sure, like the hardest thing in the world is to write short, is to write in a small space. Like it seems like writing 10,000 words would be harder than writing 500 words, but the opposite is often true because you just have limitations on how you're communicating. So yeah, like you said, you have to be very direct about it. Um, for me, this sounds really weird, but like for work, it's a machine that I turn on and off. It's like a muscle that I use every day. It's a way of approaching the page that I think is different from when I write comics, because I find that it's not so much the writing that's difficult in comics. It's the idea of like creating the story, making sure the story is interesting, making sure the characters are interesting, and then once I have that, the writing comes from that. Like I want to spend time with these characters. I want to guide them through this journey, and that's interesting for me. But like I need to have that premise, and then from the premise, I need who's going to be involved, and then I need to know where they're going. And once that happens, I'm cool with it. But I got really it's interesting what you said about shrinking down to 2 panels because I've only started working on comics. It's been about 6 years now, but I was really lucky in that Joe Ing, my collaborator, and his partner Angela Hodge is a designer. When I first had an idea for Code 45, I approached them. I'd known them for decades, and said, "Hey, do you know anyone who'd be interested in working on this book with me?" And they were interested, which was unexpected. But what that meant was not only did I get to create my first book, but I get to go to comic book college for like 2 years with Joe, who's been an artist with like Street Fighter, GI Joe, Transformers, a bunch of Udon properties, and I'm there writing my scripts, working with him, and he's teaching me how time works on a page. He's teaching me how page turn works. He's teaching me how many panels I can realistically have before things get crowded, where I need to leave space for dialogue. And he's also teaching me when I don't need dialogue and when I just need to trust the artist and that they're going to be able to convey the emotions, or the energy of what's happening on that page. And like I look back at that book now, and from issue 1 to issue 5, you can see how my writing changed as I became more comfortable and more understanding of the vocabulary of comics, which I did not. I had it as a reader, but I didn't have it consciously as a writer or a creator. And that was like a transition period working with Joe, being able to learn that new language. So that was pretty awesome.
Very cool. Being able to have some, because you've also written a novel, correct?
Yeah, back in 2010, 2011. I don't have it available right now,
Okay.
but it was a very different time in my life. Like Leo, I was once in the corporate world, doing IT and whatnot before I seriously burned out on that. And that was a book about a man who goes to work one day, and the elevator doors open to his office, and his office has been replaced by a desert wasteland, but his like cubicle's still there, and his computer's still working, and all around him are like there's skulls that have been bleached by the sun, and there's like the remnants of the other cubicles, and he just goes to work like normal. He just does his thing, and every once in a while his boss like wanders through the desert and makes like a comment to him about his work, and then wanders off. And so like that came at it from a very different time in my life when I haven't had a job in like 20 years. I've been doing the writing thing. So it's interesting to see it as an artifact of like how different things were for me, but also I don't know if that kind of corporate culture exists anymore, and I don't know like how that would resonate with people today. Like it feels very much of its time when I go back and look at it. It's just a little bit odd in that sense. But I guess kind of magical realism.
I
don't
like
know.
the idea. It sounds like how I would have been at work, fucking just like too scared not to do anything and be like, oh, okay, might as well just sit down and head down and get into it.
Yeah, like almost like you're so conditioned or beaten down
Yeah,
by capitalism and
exactly.
yeah. But
Oh,
I
I'd love
wasn't.
to read it.
Well, thank you. That's the. It might make an appearance again one day.
Cool.
Are you doing cons?
I'm not. So like one of the things about coming to comics later is I didn't really. I Montreal has a Comic Con that I've been to a few times.
Mm-hmm.
As a not just as an attendee. I didn't really grow up around con culture, and they're a decent drive away from Quebec to find something. So I mean, it's not impossible, but also like I'm not sure how the Kickstarter world and the con world interact. I'm not sure like how much crossover there is here, or sorry, in that situation. And like that's something that I would want to know more about before I went. Like Joe does a lot of cons. He's taken our book with him a few times, our books in the past. I've done some. Montreal has an outdoor comic books festival in the summers, which is pretty cool. They shut down a couple streets for a weekend, a long weekend, and there's a lot of tents up. And I've done that a few times, and that's been really cool. That's again, that experience was like, and I guess cons are like this too in my imagination, not having had the experience, but that's kind of like the community that we were talking about before around comics, where like you're getting that direct connection with people who are reading or who are potentially about to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cons really, with indies, it's really, I think, whether they do well or not is a lot on personality
Mm.
and being like you're willing to talk like and some guys you'll walk by like 100 times and all they've done is sat there staring at their phones and like, you know, I think you would do well at a con.
I get the staring down at the phones thing though, because I definitely have a social battery that has like
Oh,
like a finite thing. So it's I know it's a lot of effort to be on for like a full day like that.
mm-hmm.
I in my work, like I've been on camera and in front of the camera and on the microphone a lot. So like I think that makes it easier for me maybe as a communicator versus if you're someone who's like primarily communicating through comics and through the page. Like I could see how that would definitely be a challenge to like
Oh,
kind
definitely.
of bridge that gap in the quote unquote real world and reach out to people. It's even for me, like at that comic book festival I was at, it was intimidating to like realize that, hey, I have every person who walks by, I have to say like, hey, do you like dragons? Hey, do you like music? Like, do you like music is like not a great thing to say because I mean it's, but you know, something to like kind of hook people in and have a conversation. You know, like but it's a real effort like to do that kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. 90% of the people, even if you are going to talk to them, are going to be like, "Nah, I'm not interested."
Yeah,
Before
exactly.
you even get a word out,
They're there for like a totally different reason. It's
I'm not here buying anything. It's like, oh, sorry.
And you drag a bunch of people out of their basements and their drawing rooms and throw them on the floor with then like a couple thousand to many thousands of people walking around. And it's just like, oh my God, what's going on? There's other people here. And
Yeah,
the artists love it though, because if they can just draw, you know,
for
there's
sure.
Oh
no,
yeah.
they have something to do. I want to go around sometime and try to commission a story. Be like, excuse me, writer.
My
It's
friend Ben
like live
Goldsmith does
improv.
that.
Oh yeah,
He does little horror stories on postcards for people.
Oh, that's cool. That's a
Yeah.
cool idea.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, I wanted to do that because I like, you know, everybody commissions the artwork, but it's like, tell me a story. Come on, give me a story.
I like that horror
Easy.
story. Does he take like just normal postcards and then he's inspired by what's on them and writes a horror story about that on the back? Because that sounds like a lot of fun.
I'm not 100% sure where. I think he does like a little horror story just off the top of his head.
Okay.
I don't think it's inspired by the postcards because
that's a
sometimes I.
great idea though, because
Yeah, no.
into a con in a certain area, like here in Connecticut, you know, you go into a con, there's a lot of haunted places and stuff. You could get special.
That's true too.
New
Yeah.
England is a spooky place, that's for sure.
Yes.
We all go to Terrificon in Connecticut, and like 5 minutes from this gentleman's house, and 10. Sorry, I lied. But when we go there, Drew um, is my roommate, and we've been staying at a hotel. And every time, like the first time we got up, I was telling Leo, and he's like, "Oh, you mean the haunted hotel?" And I was looking things up. I'm like, "Leo, every hotel in your hometown is haunted. All of them are haunted, but you're in the one that's on the cemetery haunted." Oh, okay, I'm on that haunted.
Yeah, it was a hotel where they actually moved part of the cemetery to build the hotel.
How badly do you need a hotel
you-
that you
Right?
can't?
Wait, I didn't tell Drew about it. So the first morning he like opened up the drapes and he's just looking on a cemetery. And then when we had to park in back, it's like you pull up and park your car, and like 5 feet from where the curb is, there's a tombstone. Just
What about the bathtub made out of tombstones wasn't a giveaway either? Like when you
Bloody woman
was-
running down the hall.
the handprints on the TV screen.
we had a cool the first thing that the first year there, we were in room 616. So I was like, yes, we're in reality. We're in And then they haven't given us that room since. I'm like, God damn it.
Actually, with the 616 reference, any aspirations to work like mainstream with the big three, Image, DC, or Marvel?
Like I was saying before, I never really got into superhero stuff. It just and not for any reason other than it wasn't around. I didn't. My dad had some like collected Batman and some collected Dick Tracy when I was a kid that I read, but I appreciate some of it, but I never grew up wanting to tell stories for other characters. I guess it was mostly like just stories that I had, and I think one of the cool things about indie comics is being able to tell stories that you don't find in the mainstream, and that's what's blown me away about comic books in general. Is like I'm reading stuff from people that I will never see on TV and I will never see on a movie screen, whether it's because of the specific topic or whether because it would be impossible to film in that medium, or whether it's because it would just be too insanely expensive to do in a different type of medium. You know, like it the accessibility of comics, I think, really opens it up as a medium and an art form in a way that other storytelling doesn't have to offer people, and we get that access is just incredible for the diverse range of stories that are presented. That's what I think I love the most about comics, and I'm constantly surprised. Like every month I read something that I never would have thought of in a million years, presented in a way I could not have conceived of. You know, that doesn't happen when I love movies, but that doesn't happen when I watch movies as much anymore. You know, like
No.
really takes an effort to find someone who's doing something different but not obtuse with the medium.
Yeah, and the problem
Yeah.
is, like movies and TV, you find a good show and like it's canceled, like just
Yeah, a week later.
Yeah.
I mean that because of the costs involved, right? Like the corporate oversight of that type of storytelling is so much more present, and you have to the compromises that are involved in bringing something. I mean, comic books are collaborative. Film is incredibly collaborative. You know, it's hundreds of people that are creating
yeah.
that thing. So it's the compromises involved are much more significant. And I think that the sad reality is studios have essentially decided in their cost analysis that they're not going to gamble with $100 million. So they're going to make something that is as palatable to the widest possible audience to recoup their investment. But at the same time, they're not willing to make a smaller film that only costs $10 million and gamble on that because they don't feel that the profit margins are high enough to make it worth their while. So we ended up in this world where all we have are like gigantic franchises that cost a huge amount of money to make, and tiny indies who are like making movies that are under 10 million and nothing in between. You know, like it's not like we were talking about the 90s before, how we didn't know how good we had it at the Cineplex, where you could go in and see like a $40 million comedy, you know, like or an adult drama that costs $60 million with like legitimate stars who are happy to be there. Like just this total like through the looking glass experience compared to what we have now. Sorry for the rant.
Oh no,
Oh no.
That's what you're here for, man. Entertain the masses.
Just to monologue about cinema budgets.
So, what are you reading nowadays, though?
Good question. What am I?
Or do you have
reading?
time to read?
Oh, there's always time for reading. I'm actually gonna. I wrote it down because like I had a list of things that had impressed me lately, and I don't want to miss anything. So I'm gonna pull that up, and I'm sorry that I'm doing this to you.
Oh, no worries.
That's fine.
If anybody's looking
And
for a
afterwards,
good,
I'll just have you copy paste it to me.
there you go. Anybody looking for a good show, real quick? Netflix got this marine show on called Boot. Very good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's based on a gay man's boot camp experience.
When is it set? Like what era?
I want to say it's very present day.
Okay, that's cool. That's a really cool idea.
My wife and I are watching Diplomat right now.
Yes, we're heavy into that as well. This season is so much better than the last season in terms of writing. We're only 3 episodes in, but I'm liking it a lot so far.
Yeah, it's really good.
I'm watching St. Elsewhere reruns.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
I
I've
needed to
never
get an Ed Flanders fix. So I was like, yes.
So one of the books I read lately that I really liked, Linda Berry is a cartoonist that I only really discovered recently, even though she's been working for, I think, 40 years, maybe more. I read a book by her called 100 Demons a few years ago. And then I was at a used bookstore and I stumbled across a bunch of her collected stuff that she'd done in I believe, the late 70s about growing up in a small town. And I recently read My Perfect Life from her. And it's about like a girl who's in high school. And I want to say like 77 or 78 and just what she's going through. And it is absolutely stunning. Like it is amazing and like so emotionally resonant. And it's crazy that I'm connecting with this like 17-year-old girl in small town USA 40 years ago, like, but like how visceral and real her experiences are, and like the encounter she has with people and society in general. So I was really impressed with that. And then recently I also read a book called Fortune and Glory from Brian Michael Bendis, where he talked about what it was like to be approached to have some of his comics made into movies. And we had a similar experience with Code 45 that lasted for about a year and was like ultimately pretty crappy. And it was interesting to see like the parallels between like the crappiness that exists out there when, predatory producers are like, hey, we want to like strip mine your intellectual property for this like slapdash horror movie that we think your comic book is about. And we're like, what? Like that's not what this book is about.
Hold on.
And they're like, they're like, oh, and by the way, like the bisexual male character in your book, well, now it's some lipstick lesbians who are in there for titillation factors. And we're like, excuse me? Like, and you wrote a script that you didn't tell us about, and now you're showing it to us like it's a done deal. Like, honestly, like, yeah, so Bendis really hit it on the money with how that can go. Yeah.
That's disappointment.
Yeah.
Like, because to hear that it could have got the treatment, like it's a cool premise and everything.
We weren't ultimately like, they wanted to turn the story into like literally kind of a slasher gross horror movie, and that didn't really resonate with what we thought the story was about as the people who had actually created it. And that created a lot of friction with the producer. I only have one person's email blocked on my server, and it's that person because I just don't want to hear what they have to say about our story anymore. Like it was not a positive thing, but yeah, shout out to that guy.
Hey, you. We aren't going to pass notes for you. It doesn't work that way. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I know we are running on time. Was there anything didn't cover that we wanted to get to? I know. Go for it, Jarder.
Oh no, I was just going to ask if Ben, if there was anything that we're missing that we should really be hitting on?
I don't think so. I mean, ultimately, I think the people who would like this book are, comedy fans, people who are interested in kind of like the '90s period. One of the fun things about the '90s, writing in the '90s for me is it's like a really comfortable level of technology to have on the page. Like, there's no cell phones, there's no social media. Maybe there's a computer somewhere in the school with a dial-up connection in the library, but these kids can't just reach out for help or call a guardian angel to come in and swoop in and save the day, or even look things up on Wikipedia. Like, they're very much stuck in the moment, and they have to deal with what's happening in the moment. And as a writer, I appreciate that for storytelling. Like, I don't have to accommodate. I'm honestly sick of social media, and if I can escape that in the worlds that I'm creating, that makes me happy. But it's also not super interesting, I think, to write about people texting or to depict that on the page. Like, it's not something I'm really into. There are some artists and storytellers who do it very well. I just don't think that's necessarily what I'm looking for. So that's the part of that being in the '90s for me is like going to a different era of technology that I think is helpful for developing characters and helpful for moving a story forward.
It's so strange how quickly we developed our technology between then and now.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
leaps and bounds, like just crazy.
And then how
When,
straight, how like quickly it like turned around and like bit us,
yeah, yeah.
I I think one of the only things I've seen that was really like it wasn't focused on the technology, but it relied upon it was Pretty Little Liars. And I did sit down and I watched the entire series,
Oh, I'm
and I'm
sorry.
really mad that I did. Um, but I was like, I just wanted to know. You kind of get there and they did it really cleverly in the very beginning, at least, and then it just keeps building and building, and it's like, what now? Because it starts off with they keep getting contacted on their cell phones, and it's like, who's sending the messages? Is
Mm,
kind of how it starts off, but that was one of the only times where the things that I've watched where it was cleverly done and technology was a necessity for it, you know? But otherwise, yeah, it's so much easier to write about when we were young because
yeah.
Mm.
there wasn't like everything at the tip of our hands. And
And it
yeah,
changes, I think, how people communicate. Obviously, the most obvious thing I've ever said. It changes how people communicate with each other.
but,
But
but
like
no,
that's
yeah,
important, right? Like it's you know, you, I as a teenager, I could not have handled the intimacy of constant
Oh
digital
my
communication.
god.
Like
My
it,
parents would have killed me with the cell phone.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure it's a burden, and I'm not saying that things were necessarily better when I was young because there was a whole bunch of other, as evidenced
Oh
by
yeah.
the bad high school experience I had. There's a whole bunch of other crap going on that was like not great, right? But at least I didn't have a digital leash. All of my worst decisions broadcast to the entire
Oh
world.
my god.
Or just the
Yeah.
pressure of being in constant contact with everyone in your social group, and then everyone who's outside of that social group who's looking in on your social group. Like, as a kid, like, how do you deal with that? I have no idea.
Oh, I couldn't even imagine if everybody had a video camera in their pocket when I was a kid. That would have been like
Yeah,
it would have been over.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
would have been a whole different Jeremy. I'm telling you that.
yeah,
Yeah, but the adventures we had back then,
Oh my
it,
god. I'm glad
but
there's
but
no
it,
documentation though.
they're lost to history, and that's what makes
Yeah.
them amazing.
I can
we
make up my own story now.
we can make bad decisions and recover from them.
Hmm.
We didn't have, we were able to, and our bad decisions, our consequences were limited to our immediate surroundings.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a global thing. So
yeah, you didn't hop on a plane and suddenly be blackballed from the entire market that you worked in by the time you landed because you made a
exactly,
joke somewhere,
that was
or
impossible. That was
yeah.
impossible. Yeah, yeah.
No.
there-
Leo, time for the question of the week.
yeah. So, what do you dork out about? I know you mentioned you used to work in IT, but uh, like you mentioned, you're watching. No, it was Jar Jar watching Boots. Um, but anything you're watching other than Diplomat, or are you a
Um,
gamer? You mentioned Tekken earlier.
in terms of what I geek out about, I mean music. I mean, I think music's the best thing in the world. I'm like in the middle of losing the hearing on my left side. So I was a classically trained pianist, and I had a small record label. I used to tour and stuff. And so like
Awesome.
the last few years have been coming to terms with the fact that I can't hear the world the same way that I used to. And it's really changed how I approach music and how I interface with that world. So I think maybe like a sadder answer than I think you were looking for.
Yeah.
But
Broke our hearts.
yeah, sorry about that. In terms of like a more happy thing, I don't know why, but about a year and a half ago, I decided I needed to buy Blu-rays after having not been interested in Blu-rays for like most of my life. And now I have like 600 or 700 of them because I'm going to pawn shops and like estate sales, and I'm buying them for pennies on the dollar. And
nice.
I think part of it was being frustrated with like the low quality of what I was seeing streaming, like just, and I mean like legitimately the quality of the signal and the media, like bad sound, bad picture. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I can get a Blu-ray for $2. I'm going to do that. And it's just gone out of control now. And like, I'm starting to look at Criterion and that kind of thing. And that's me. And I have a friend who is also a movie guy. And I started doing this, and I started talking to him about it, and now he has double my collection size after having started it from zero at the same time. So like I'm worried that like I'm going to personally bankrupt him because of like getting him onto this Blu-ray track. Like he'll send me a Snapchat, and it'll be like a stack like this tall, and he's like, "This just came in the mail." I'm like, "Wow!" But it's fun. It's not
It's
hurting
like
anybody.
Leo with comics.
There you go. Exactly. It's that kind of shelving. So I've been geeking out on Blu-rays. Yeah, just like, and I've been going back, and I've decided that there's like movies that I'm not going to rewatch until I can find it on disc. And there's, you know, I have a few white whales that I'm trying to hunt down, like stuff that's rarer or stuff that like just wasn't popular, so it's just not out there. And I've even broken down, and I'm starting to buy TV shows on DVD at 480 if I know they'll never get a Blu-ray release. Because those are even cheaper. You can pick up like a whole season of like WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh,
For
yeah.
literally, I paid $1.50 this weekend to get that.
Oh yeah.
And
Nice.
and it's very hard to stream that kind of stuff. Like
Are you looking for anything else at estate sales, or just DVDs and Blu-rays?
um
I'm a big fan of estate sales myself, but
I look
I'm
for
there for
weird-
toys and comic books and stuff.
I look for weird stuff, like weird ephemera when I'm at these sales. I was at one last month, and I picked up, I don't know if it was like hanging in a school or something, but it was a 3 foot by 4 foot map of the area I'm living in,
Oh,
probably from the early 60s. And it's like set on it's like mounted on a cardboard thing. Like it's not, it's like a reverse frame. And the crazy thing about it is it's all in English, which is wild
Oh, wow.
to like, and I would say it's probably maybe like 40 by 35 miles in terms of the region that it's covering. And I got it for like $10 at someone had it in their basement. And they had, the interesting thing was this person was into framing, and they had a full framing setup, with like tons of empty frames that they were trying to divest themselves of. Right. But they didn't have a gigantic frame for this thing. So like, I just picked it. And luckily it fit in my vehicle, like with like inches to spare.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm always looking for like weird stuff like that. Or I'm going to, there's this weekend in Saint Hyacinthe, there's a collector's, it's Canada's largest collector's show.
Oh,
And it's
sweet.
basically people bring whatever. And there are, I don't know how many thousand booths there are, but there's just the randomest things you can find there. And then you throw in the fact that like Quebec is its own culture, kind of separate from the rest of Canada, separate from the rest of North America, and you find like really strange stuff that you don't find elsewhere as well because of that. Like it's an extra layer of filtration. So that's going to be fun. I've gone a couple of times, and I'm head up there with my dad, who's another, his thing is auctions. He likes to go to auctions and pick up random stuff there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's kind of what I'm geeking out on, the consumption of used media. Like I guess that's the best way to put it.
You're recycling.
Yeah, it's either me or the landfill, right? Like
Exactly, and it's plastic, so it'll be there forever.
Exactly. So I know that in 30 years, like I'm not going to have any heirs, so whoever liquidates my estate will chuck it in the landfill. But until then, they get a reprieve.
And who knows? By then, maybe Blu-rays will be like valuable.
Yeah, well, when maybe I could trade them for water in the water wars. In
Oh,
10
there we
years, like,
That's what I'm keeping the comic books I have left for.
It's
Waterworld.
the only currency with any value is going to be these hard media.
Yeah, yeah.
Bottle caps. Bottle caps.
Bottle caps.
Sorry.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap things up. Benjamin, I want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. Kari, should we just anything we need to take care of afterwards, or should we just cut it?
Nope. We can just wrap with everybody.
Yeah, cool.
We're signing off.
Yeah, well, I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. For me, just check your show notes, but more importantly, check out Benjamin and his awesome work there. We're going to be checking out. And Jar Jar, you got me excited about Code 45. Actually, speaking of that, Benjamin, where can people find like Code 45, Dead Air, while they're waiting for Model UN?
So you can find all of my work at benjaminhunting.com. That's got my freelance writing and my comic book work. But all of my comics, they have a URL that follows them around forever. So code-45.com takes you to the part of my website that has the book. And then deadaircomic.com will take you to Dead Air, and Model UN Comic will take you to whether it's the Kickstarter or my website as time goes on. But there are digital versions of the books that are available to purchase there.
Awesome. And where do you like people following you on social media?
Ooh, social media is so rough these days, but like I'm on Instagram because people aren't mean to me there. I'm at HuntingBenjamin. You can find me there.
Okay. No BlueSky yet?
I am on BlueSky, but like I feel like the text-based social medias aren't as friendly. Like I'm not. I don't know. BlueSky's got a really good comic book community, which I enjoy. I just like the way on Instagram I can just post a random or strange or funny photo of something that I've encountered in the world and just have it be out there, and then people can, view it or not and move on. I don't necessarily need to get into the discussion of it.
I dig that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. Jar Jar.
Hey, I'm on all the social medias that I can think of, but I don't use any of them except for Facebook. So if you want to talk to me there, I am. Other than that, follow Ben on Instagram.
Cool beans.
Oh, who do we got next week?
Who do we have
Kari.
next week?
Where's
Well, oh, just a second. So,
Courtney?
okay,
Nope.
yeah,
Dean Haskell.
Nope. Yes, next week is exciting. No, follow me if you want to. Go there on Facebook. If you see a judgmental crow staring at you, then that is me. I am judging you. And you can link up and see all the other stuff that I do, things that I write, other podcasts that I'm on and stuff. And yes, coming up next week, we have Dean Haspiel. Next Tuesday, we're going to talk about his latest Kickstarter, and go check him out. Come check it out. And also, we have an extra surprise coming on next week. We have a second show on Wednesday. The inestimable Mark Wade will be joining us again. So be prepared for that. Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome.
A 2-for-1 week.
Uh-huh.
Well,
We're bringing it.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been a lot of fun. And I know it's a lot of redhead energy in one place, but I think we pulled it off.
Hey, nobody's souls were stolen tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Benjamin, hold on for 1 second and we'll end the stream. Thank you so much.